I was the scheming female supporting character who coveted my foster brother and got kicked out of the family. At the birthday banquet, I slipped a potent aphrodisiac to the male lead, only to end up facilitating his romance with the female lead. As for me, I was driven out of the house, transforming from a spoiled heiress into a hard-working laborer. One can live without love, but not without money. Realizing this, my hand paused while administering the medicine. Instead, I force-fed Christian a hangover soup laced with half a can of salt, but after drinking it, he started acting strangely. Christian loosened his tie, his voice hoarse. "It's so hot. What did you put in the soup?" I was about to answer when Christian covered my mouth. Later, I opened my eyes, exhausted and having fainted. Christian gasped lightly, his face flushed. "The drug's effect hasn't worn off yet. Can we do it again?" "Who drugged you, may I ask?" "Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day." Now the story begins. When I realized I was just a supporting character in a sweet romance novel, I had already torn open half of the pouch containing the aphrodisiac and was just about to pour it into the pot. I suspiciously glanced at Christian, who was passed out drunk on the sofa. He was completely sunk into the couch, his shirt collar messily open, revealing collarbones tinged with a faint blush. All my efforts weren't in vain. I had specifically begged so many friends to make sure they got me drunk at the birthday party. I knew Christian would block it for me. Under the influence of alcohol, Christian's usually sharp features appeared softened, his Adam's apple bobbed slightly with each breath, his thin lips parting unconsciously as he let out a muffled yet seductive moan. "I really want to kiss him." "Wait, now is not the time to be distracted by beauty." I abruptly slapped my own face, trying to sort out the inexplicable memories that had just flooded my mind. The packet of aphrodisiac in my hand was tightly clenched, meaning that after I drugged Christian, not only did I fail to sleep with him as desired, instead, I was Christian who, with reddened eyes, threw me out of the villa, only to be picked up by the suddenly appearing female lead Sabrina. Inside, they were lost in passion, oblivious to the world around them. Outside, I was left to endure the cold wind, freezing to the point of desperately needing a padded coat and pants. Later, Christian went as far as to expel me from the household and cut off my financial support, so I had no choice but to work 3 jobs a day, from dawn till dusk, not a single day off. Working diligently, yet earning only 3,000. Is this pitiful woman really me? Anger surged within me, and I stormed over to the couch with a fierce demeanor. I proceeded to Christian's face, pinching, rubbing, and squishing it relentlessly. While manhandling him, I vented my grievances. "Christian, you're so mean. How could you do this to me?" Christian furrowed his brows slightly as I rubbed them, but was too drunk to resist. He could only mumble out a vague protest. "Stop it." I withdrew my hand resentfully. "Throw the useless aphrodisiac into the trash bin." While going to the kitchen to serve Christian some hangover soup, my lingering anger hadn't subsided. My gaze swept over the assortment of bottles and jars on the spice rack. Since Christian could be so ruthless to me in the future, I should also give him a taste of his own medicine. Without hesitation, I grabbed the salt shaker and poured it in with a clatter. I even thoughtfully stirred it with a spoon to prevent Christian from choking when drinking. No sister in the whole world is more considerate than me. Christian really doesn't know how to appreciate it at all. I ladled the specially prepared hangover soup into a bowl and brought it to Christian. Christian was heavily intoxicated. It took me tremendous effort to help him sit up, his burning forehead pressed against my shoulder, his scorching breath spraying against the hollow of my neck. "Bro, drink some soup." I brought the bowl to Christian's lips, my voice unconsciously softening. If Christian were sober, he'd definitely notice I'm up to no good right now. Too bad. He's currently a drunkard at my mercy. "Christian, open your mouth sweetly." Without hesitation, I poured the entire bowl of bitterly salty hangover soup down his throat. Cough. Christian coughed violently from the choking, his brows furrowing involuntarily. "This soup, what's wrong, bro?" I blinked innocently twice. "I made it especially for you. Does it not taste good?" Christian shook his head, then nodded. In the end, he actually pushed the empty bowl back into my hands. "More." "Christian, did he drink himself stupid? This soup tastes so bad, yet you actually want a second bowl." "But he did say he wanted more. Maybe he has unusual taste preferences." Hesitantly, I went to the kitchen to serve another bowl. "This time you didn't even wait for me to feed you." Christian downed it in one go, deliberately showing me the empty bowl. I finished it. "Then, shall I help you back to your room to rest?" I propped up Christian's arm, and he obediently leaned against me. His scorching body heat transmitted through the thin fabric where we touched. I silently repeated it twice in my mind. I absolutely refused to become a working girl. The restless thoughts that had just been suppressed came alive again. I pushed open the door and struggled to throw Christian onto the bed, but forgetting about inertia, I tumbled down onto him as well. My nose hit Christian's chest, the pain bringing tears to my eyes. It took me a long while to gather the strength to push myself up from the edge of the bed, but I couldn't get up. Who's holding my hand? I struggled hard before realizing it was Christian. I looked up and realized he had opened his eyes at some point. Those usually cold and indifferent eyes were now shimmering with a watery glow. The corners of his eyes were tinged with a faint red, staring straight at me. "Bro, you're awake." I swallowed nervously with a guilty conscience. "I'll get up right now." Christian's hand tightened even more. His voice was hoarse beyond recognition. "It's so hot." A well-defined hand tugged at the already loose tie, casually tossing it aside. "What did you put in the soup? What else could it be? It's so salty, can't you tell it's salt?" I was just about to explain. Christian suddenly flipped over, pinning me beneath him. Wait. I panicked and pushed against Christian's chest. "It's just..." Christian's lips pressed down, carrying the taste of alcohol and saltiness. My excuses were all trapped in my throat. The kiss came fierce and urgent, like a long-suppressed desire finally finding its outlet. I was kissed into a daze, my mind completely blank. When I regained consciousness, Christian had already started undressing. All the buttons on his shirt were undone, revealing his well-defined 8-pack abs. The V-line slanted downward, disappearing into deeper territory. My gaze drifted downward. He'd even undone his belt halfway. My fingers suddenly clenched the sheets, crumpling them, unsure how things had escalated to this point. Christian lived up to his well-built physique. His stamina is outrageously good. From crying until my voice went hoarse to passing out, when I woke up, it felt like a lifetime had passed, but Christian still looked unsatisfied. He pressed a string of damp, pecking kisses against my ear, the moist breath tickling unbearably. I instinctively shied away, whimpering in protest. "Really, no more." Christian leaned down over me, his canine teeth grazing the soft flesh of my earlobe. "It's so frustrating, but the drug hasn't worn off yet. Can we do it again?" "Like hell we will." "Did someone drug you?" "I'd like to ask, who is it?" "Let her come out and face the consequences herself." "Okay." I cursed 1,000 times in my heart, but the reality was my voice was so hoarse I couldn't utter a single word. Which Christian shamelessly took as consent. He dragged me into doing it all over again. When I woke up, Christian was still asleep. His arm was tightly wrapped around my waist, and it took some effort to break free. It took me 0.1 seconds to accept the fact that I had actually slept with Christian as I wished. Then I immediately began frantically searching for what usually happens to female supporting characters who sleep with the male lead. I shivered involuntarily. I glanced again at Christian. He was sound asleep, his long lashes casting a small shadow under his eyes, his lips curled slightly, as if he were having a pleasant dream, still laughing. "You're about to become the male lead in a chasing wife to the crematorium story, but as the saying goes, better you than me." I still want to save myself. I dragged my body, which felt as if it had been run over by a truck, and cleaned up every trace of my presence from last night. Not even the 2 strands of hair left on the pillow were spared. Perhaps my method of cleaning up the scene was too meticulous. On top of that, Christian was far too drunk that night. He seemed unaware of what had actually happened that night. That kind of plot where it's all your fault for drugging me and driving a wedge between us. "I swear I'll grind your bones to dust" and the like. Please don't let this happen to me. I obediently stayed in my room drawing shoujo manga, neither hovering around Christian nor missing deadlines. Even the editor praised me as a good kid, but sometimes running into Christian is unavoidable. Christian's call came while I was curled up on the couch binge-watching a drama. "Teresa, I left a document at home. Could you please bring it to me?" Christian's hoarse voice, mixed with faint static, reached my ears. He called me Teresa, for no reason. I thought of that night, my body trembling. I pinched my arm to calm myself down. I replied, "Okay." I changed my clothes and hailed a cab to the company. Christian, everyone in the company knows me, so I passed through without any obstacles, went straight to Christian's office door, but I didn't expect to coincidentally run into the female lead here. The office door was open. I saw Sabrina standing beside Christian, both looking at the same document. She leaned slightly forward, her long hair cascading down and gently brushing against Christian's hand. Christian turned his head and whispered something to her. The atmosphere carried an indescribable sense of intimacy and harmony. Good, it seems even without following the script, the male and female leads were destined to walk the path of love. Then what about me? As the supporting female character, I've already made mistakes more serious than in the original plot. Wouldn't the consequences be even worse? My mind is in chaos, and my chest feels tight. I feel a bit nauseous and want to vomit. I swallowed hard, trying to ease the situation. Not only did it not improve, but it got worse. I covered my lips and let out a dry heave. The sound instantly caught the attention of the two people in the office. They all turned to look in unison. I just felt a chill run down my spine, as if my death were imminent the next second. Without hesitation, I strode forward and flung Christian's requested documents onto the desk. Bro, I've brought the documents you asked for. By revealing your identity so promptly, the female lead probably won't misunderstand anything. I glanced at Sabrina's expression and only relaxed when I saw no displeasure on her face. However, Christian frowned, looking at me with concern. His tone was caring. Are you okay? Do you need me to take you to the hospital? How dare you show concern for me in front of the female lead? No sense of male virtue. Points deducted. I quickly stepped back, waving my hands. No. It's just that I haven't had breakfast. It's an old issue. I'll just go to the hospital and get some medicine myself. I refused too firmly. Christian couldn't insist, could only watch me leave, dodged a bullet, but didn't escape completely. I stared blankly at the pregnancy test results in my hand. How did a simple stomach problem turn into pregnancy? Can anyone tell me what usually happens to a supporting female character who's pregnant with the male lead's child? This is killing me. The thin sheet of the pregnancy test report was crumpled and then smoothed out by me, dazedly. I stared at the words 6 weeks pregnant on it, hesitantly reaching out my hand, gently pressing it against my lower abdomen. I still can't quite accept this fact. A sudden noise at the door startled me, making me jump to my feet. Instinctively, I hid the pregnancy test in my pocket. Bro, just walked in. Christian was startled by my sudden movement. He frowned and approached. Probably noticing I still looked unwell, reached out to touch my forehead. Why are you so pale? Still feeling sick? I'll call the doctor to check on you. No way. I had a guilty conscience and didn't care if my actions seemed ambiguous. Immediately grabbed Christian's hand and held on tightly. Bro, no need to go through all this trouble. I just forgot to eat dinner while rushing my manuscript, and now my stomach hurts from hunger. I was lying on the couch, agonizing over what to order for delivery, when you came back. You're home early today. Is the company not busy? I nervously digressed further and further. Christian smiled helplessly and said, You. He casually unfastened his wrist cuff and rolled up his shirt sleeve to his forearm, revealing a casualness and softness not often seen by outsiders. Eating takeout all the time isn't good for your health. Christian opened the fridge and glanced at the ingredients inside. How about tomato and egg noodles? I wouldn't dare object, obediently sitting at the dining table waiting for the meal to start. The house has an open kitchen. With just a glance, I could clearly see Christian's every move. His slender fingers gripped the knife handle as tomatoes were diced into perfectly even pieces. A few drops of juice stained Christian's fingertips as the water in the pot bubbled halfway to boiling. Steam rose in swirling tendrils, softening Christian's features with unexpected tenderness. I found myself inexplicably touching my own belly. I thought to myself, Christian would surely make a wonderful husband and father. But none of this will ever have anything to do with me. Suddenly, I desperately wished for tonight to end later, and even later still. Because this is the only moment Christian and I will have. Unfortunately, I'm just a supporting female character destined to be cannon fodder. The god of fate never cares about my thoughts. Christian, when the phone on the table lit up, I almost instantly recognized the name on the caller ID. It was the female lead, Sabrina. The heart seemed to be suddenly gripped, an indescribable suffocation spreading. Christian answered the phone. Something was said on the other end. He frowned slightly and comforted in a gentle tone. Okay, don't worry, I'll be right there. With that, Christian turned off the stove, looking apologetic. Teresa, there's an urgent matter I need to attend to. I bit my lip, unwilling to give up. Then let me go with you. No need. Christian refused. You're not feeling well, eat something and rest early. I'll come back as soon as I can. I watched Christian walk away. After hesitating for a moment, I finally ran after him. When I came out, Christian's car hadn't gone far. Coincidentally, there was a car parked by the roadside. Without a second thought, I pulled open the door and got into the passenger seat. Driver, just follow that car ahead. Perhaps the other party had never seen such a scene before. Hesitating, he asked in return. Me, seeing Christian's car about to disappear around the corner, I grew a bit anxious. Drive, oh. The car drove out of the bustling district and finally stopped in front of a somewhat dilapidated residential building. This should be the home of the female lead, Sabrina. Her family circumstances weren't great, with a mother addicted to gambling. According to the plot I know, Christian helped Sabrina deal with the debt collectors today. Sabrina naturally felt grateful to him, and their affection gradually deepened. I rolled down the car window, and a cool breeze brushed past. The soundproofing in the residential building was terrible, so poor that even scattered arguments reached my ears. I began to make untimely associations. Like a patient with masochistic tendencies, Christian, what would he do? Would he, just like comforting me, also pull Sabrina into his arms, gently stroking her hair and saying, "Don't be afraid, I'm here"? I curled up in the passenger seat, my fingertips unconsciously digging into my arms, yet feeling no pain at all, until Christian's figure finally appeared at the stairwell. Sabrina followed closely behind him, her eyes slightly red. Christian helped her put the suitcase into the trunk. The moment I turned around, I was suddenly embraced by an emotionally overwhelmed Sabrina. I clearly saw Christian freeze, yet he didn't push her away. I lowered my gaze, gradually loosening my clenched fingers. "Let's go back," I said to the driver. I have personally witnessed that the love between the male and female leads is inevitable, so there's no point in holding on to ridiculous expectations anymore. The car started again, and the man in the driver's seat glanced at me twice. Hesitating to speak, caught red-handed, he forced a dry laugh. Ha ha ha. This kind of thing is pretty common nowadays. It's just a man cheating. Just move on to the next one and you won't feel bad. After some time passes, you and that scumbag will naturally stop seeing each other. It's as if he's dead in your world. I interrupted calmly, dropping a bombshell. He's my brother, Bibrocon. The man's eyes widened in an instant, and the atmosphere fell into silence. After a long while, he fished out his phone from his pocket. A subtle smile spread across his face. Hello, I'm Dean, the poor college guy you mistook for a taxi driver on your way home in the middle of the night. Since our meeting is fate, I won't charge you for the ride. Come on, let's add each other as friends." I warily shrank back. "What do you want?" Dean shook his phone, his thin lips curling slightly. "Don't get me wrong, I just happen to be as morally corrupt as you are, a fellow siscon." He shrugged nonchalantly. "Just wanted to learn from your failures so I don't end up in such a pitiful state." Hee. Drop dead. Christian lied to me. He didn't keep his promise before leaving. "I'll be back as soon as possible." I sat lifelessly on the living room sofa until dawn, but never saw his figure appear. But it doesn't matter. After today, I will never wait for Christian again. Numbly, I packed away every trace of my existence into the small suitcase. The room instantly became empty, as if no one had ever lived there. In a daze, I felt an illusion of being uprooted. My throat tightened, and tears immediately followed. I wasn't usually one to cry so easily. Before the age of 6, I was just an unwanted child in the orphanage. Due to malnutrition, I was extremely thin and frail. With his eccentric personality and reluctance to speak, he became even less likable. Christian was brought to the orphanage by the matron on a snowy day. He was strikingly handsome, with eyes even more translucent than the falling snowflakes. He didn't seem like a child abandoned by his parents, but rather resembled the little prince described in those overtold fairy tales. But unlike the other children who crowded around, I silently hugged the doll in my arms tighter. Life in the orphanage was tough, especially in winter. Going hungry and cold was a common occurrence. On top of that, Christian was a newcomer, so it was inevitable that he would face exclusion from the others. But Christian always acts indifferent to everything. He doesn't resist when someone steals his food, nor does he get angry when his only blanket gets splashed with water. Alright, now I'm starting to suspect Christian really is an abandoned child. Looks so smart, yet behaves like a fool. I turned over and saw Christian shivering almost imperceptibly, wrapped in a thin coat. I steeled myself and lifted a corner of the blanket. The cold instantly seeped through the gap, turning the already chilly bedding icy. "Here, take half. There isn't a kinder-hearted little girl under the heavens than me." I didn't give Christian a chance to refuse. pulling him under the covers with a swift tug. The single bed suddenly felt cramped with 2 people squeezed into it. Christian radiated a cold aura. He shifted uncomfortably, only to be quietly scolded by me again. "Don't move, you're letting all the cold air in." And so, Christian and I faced each other. Neither of us had fallen asleep, yet we remained completely still, as if playing a game of freeze tag. I knew helping Christian would definitely get me into trouble, but when I was pushed off the swing, I admit, I felt a little regret. My knees hit the ground hard, the skin on my palm was scraped off, with blood seeping out. I gasped in pain, tears welling up in my eyes. The boy who pushed me stood triumphantly in front of me, followed by a few other kids. "Serves you right, who told you to help that new kid?" I gritted my teeth and swallowed the sob that was about to escape, retorted. "I want to, none of your business." Seeing that I didn't show the pleading attitude they had expected, the leading boy raised his hand as if to hit me. If I hadn't just bumped my leg, I would have run as far away as possible by now. But now I could only resign myself to fate and try to protect my vital spots, yet the expected pain never came. I moved my hand away from my face and cautiously peeked out. It was Christian standing in front of me. "What do you want? Isn't it obvious enough that you still have to ask?" The boy who bullied me was also stunned by the question, and he chose to show Christian with actions. A group of people quickly started brawling, and I scrambled to find a safe spot to watch the fight. Then I realized Christian couldn't fight at all, but he was really good at playing dirty. I saw him slightly turn his body, and the 2 little boys charging at him collided head-on. Seeing stars, they fell to the ground and couldn't get up for a long time. Then he casually picked up a snow-covered stick from the ground and swung it. A flurry of white snowflakes landed directly on the face of the boy who had pushed me, causing him to instinctively close his eyes. Christian took advantage of the situation and delivered 2 fierce blows with a stick. The strikes left the opponent howling in pain, begging for mercy repeatedly. "Are you okay?" Christian dropped the stick and walked towards me. I shook my head and answered honestly, "Not at all. I'll take you to get some medicine." Christian carefully carried me on his back. The pain was intense, so I started talking to him intermittently to distract myself. "Christian, why are you at the orphanage? Did your parents abandon you too?" Christian didn't answer my question, instead bringing up a completely unrelated topic. "I'm older than you, so you should call me brother." I purse my lips and reluctantly rest my head on his shoulder. My voice comes out flat. "No, why?" Christian asked. "Because brothers are family, and we're not." I mumbled incoherently. Christian let out a light chuckle at my words. "We could be, as long as you call me brother. Aren't we family then?" I was completely baffled by Christian's logic. After struggling to make sense of it for a while, I finally had no choice but to reluctantly mumble, "Be brother." "Yes, brother is here, thanks to Christian's fame from a single battle. Life has become a bit easier, no one dares to bully us anymore." The frozen ice quietly melted, and before we knew it, spring had arrived. Christian's parents found the orphanage. Only then did I learn Christian's reason for ending up in this orphanage. It was because he had been kidnapped by enemies and managed to escape during the chaos. That's good. I'm genuinely happy for Christian. At least he wasn't abandoned by his family. Someone still loves him. I jogged, wanting to be the first to share this news with Christian. Coincidentally, he was packing his luggage. I watched as Christian stuffed my messy, ugly rabbit plushie into his bag. Hey, Christian, what are you doing?" I reached out to stop him. Christian easily dodged and casually threw one of my clothes in as well. "I really miss the days when you were still willing to call me brother obediently." I buried my head in the luggage, digging out that ugly rabbit, and stubbornly muttered, "Don't change the subject. Why did you take my things?" Christian, seeing my obstinacy, he raised his hand and tapped my forehead. "You're my sister, of course you're coming home with me." It's all Christian's fault. All these years he spoiled me too much. Like the little mermaid who strayed into an ivory tower, the moment my feet touched the ground, the beautiful bubbles surrounding me burst and vanished. Only the real, tangible pain reminds me. Christian and I were never meant to walk the same path. I raised my hand to wipe away the tear stains on my cheeks. Picking up my luggage, I walked out. I'm ready to leave Christian. I cannot, nor will I allow myself to become the villainess in the story, who resorts to any means, groveling and begging, just to desperately seek Christian's slightest affection. This is my 3rd year fleeing to City R. I no longer feel the initial discomfort of not being acclimated, unable to adjust to the humid air and overly sweet flavors here. I couldn't eat well or sleep well, and I even lost a lot of hair, until Tracy was safely born. Gradually, my days became filled with Tracy's unintelligible babbling, the anxiety of impending manuscript deadlines, and the mundane routines of daily life. Unknowingly, I've grown just like the thriving banyan tree outside the courtyard. Slowly yet tenaciously, I've taken root in this unfamiliar city. Come here, Tracy, it's been so long, give your big brother a hug. Dean's voice arrived before he did. Still carrying his usual carefree demeanor, the voice was consistently casual. Tracy was sprawled on the carpet doodling, and upon hearing it, looked quite disdainful of him. Without hesitation, she abandoned her crayon and pattered her little legs to hide behind me. Only half of her little head peeked out. She now speaks very fluently, with a sweet, childish voice. She imitated about 80% of the tone I usually use to scold Dean. Uncle Dean, my mom says someone your age shouldn't try to act young anymore. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Dean was said to be triggered. He exaggeratedly clutched his chest, his facial expressions extremely dramatic. Tracy, how could you say such cold words to hurt your brother's heart? Tracy ignored him. Dean turned to accuse me. Teresa, Miss Teresa, for these past 3 years, who has been risking discovery by that living demon Christian, working tirelessly to cover your tracks. And who was it that ran around doing all your errands when you first came to City R and didn't know a soul? Is this how you teach children to repay me? Hearing that name clearly from Dean's mouth again, my heart still felt like it had been struck by a dull hammer. A sour, aching pain spread through me, but fortunately, I'm no longer that little girl who could only hide in her room and cry. I bent down and picked up the little one hiding behind me. He kissed her soft little cheek, then effortlessly buried that hint of unease in the deepest corner of his heart. Who was it that gave you the idea and helped you successfully win your sister over? I deliberately drew out my tone, lacing it with teasing. Now that you're happy, you've forgotten all about me, your matchmaker. Cut it out. Dean placed the gift bag on the coffee table and began unpacking its contents one by one. This is a plush bear my sister specially brought back for Tracy after her business trip, along with some supplements she asked me to give you. Ever since she last saw you, she kept saying you're too thin and need to nourish yourself properly. She always only remembers you too. Why doesn't she ever think I need some nourishing too? Sigh. As expected, staying together for too long makes feelings fade. Here we go again, fallen into Dean's older sister's vicious cycle, no idea when it'll stop. The doorbell rang at this exact moment with perfect timing. Dean finally stopped his incessant chatter and casually opened the door. Standing outside was neither a delivery person nor the warm-hearted aunt from next door. Instead, it was Christian. 3 years seemed to have left little trace on him, instead deepening his cold, imposing aura. A few unmelted snowflakes rested on his shoulders, the hazy moonlight casting shadows that outlined his profound features. Christian's gaze swept past Dean at the doorway. It landed precisely, heavily on me, and on Tracy in my arms clutching her plush bear. The air seemed to freeze in an instant, along with all the blood in my body. I held Tracy's arm tighter unconsciously, my heart pounding as if trying to leap out of my chest. How did Christian find this place? What should I do? Dean was clearly stunned too. His body blocking the doorway stiffened for a moment as he instinctively tried to close the door, but Christian had already firmly braced his hand against the doorframe with an unyielding force. Christian's gaze felt almost tangible as it slowly traced across my face, then it froze on Tracy's little face that resembled mine. His pitch-black pupils suddenly contracted, as if pierced by something sharp, stinging painfully. The Tracy in my arms seemed to sense the tense atmosphere. She fidgeted uneasily and called out to me in a small voice, "Mom." The childish call was like a stone thrown into a stagnant lake. The suffocating silence faded, replaced by uncontrollable waves of emotion. "Mom?" Christian repeated the name in a low voice. His voice was hoarse, even carrying a distorted hint of laughter. "Teresa." Christian's hand, braced against the doorframe, tensed with veins bulging from exertion. His gaze lingered on my face, the storm in his eyes nearly devouring all reason. "Aren't you going to introduce your niece to your brother?" "I'm going to die." I sat on the sofa, my head still unable to lift, not a single bit of courage. Christian to meet his gaze. "What's your name?" Tracy forgot the intimidation brought by the strange atmosphere just moments ago. She was Christian's new rabbit plushie coaxed into sitting obediently on his lap. She answered whatever people asked. "My name is Tracy, and I'm already over 2 years old." Christian ruffled Tracy's hair, his eyes were deep and unfathomable, lost in thought. "Thank you, big brother, for the little bunny plushie you gave me," Tracy said sweetly. "Wait, is this messing up the generational hierarchy?" I took a deep breath, looked up, and softly reminded, "Tracy, he's Mom's older brother. By family hierarchy, you should call him Uncle." Tracy looked confused but obediently tilted her little face up and called out, "Uncle." Christian didn't respond. Instead, he stared at me with a faint, knowing smile and said, "Is that so?" Christian's attitude always made me feel as if he knew something. I didn't dare to speculate further. "It's already Tracy's bedtime. I'll take her to rest." I made up a random excuse, grabbed Tracy and ran. I picked out a fairy tale book and read Tracy a bedtime story, but I remained restless, not even noticing when Tracy fell asleep. The door was gently knocked twice, startling me with a shiver. Christian's voice came through the door, emotionless. "Teresa, we need to talk." What was coming couldn't be avoided after all. I took a deep breath and tried to move as quietly as possible, tucking in the blanket for the sleeping Tracy. My fingertips brushed against her soft cheek. That warmth spread from my fingertips to my chest, giving me a sliver of courage. As I opened the door, Christian stood right outside. His tall figure blocked most of the light. "Let's talk downstairs." I crossed my arms and spoke with a hint of exhaustion. Christian followed me to the study. It was just a short distance away. I've been wondering, what on earth do Christian and I have to talk about? Does he know about Tracy's existence and come to completely erase this stain-like trace? "Teresa." I responded instinctively, my voice hoarse beyond recognition. "Have you thought about me all these years?" I thought Christian would ask who the child's father was, or perhaps ask me why I left without saying goodbye. Yet he chose to ask the most inconsequential question. Christian frowned slightly, as if struggling to control something. An emotion I couldn't quite identify flashed through his eyes. I didn't dare to dwell on it, nor did I know how to respond. I could only remain silent. "Why won't you answer me?" My fingers resting on my arm unconsciously tightened, leaving behind faint crescent-shaped marks. How could I not have thought about it? But I can't admit it. These improper fancies would only bring me endless trouble. I still have Tracy, and I absolutely can't risk her. I lowered my eyes, staring at Christian's shadow stretched long by the light. Leaving without saying goodbye back then was my fault, but after all, I'm not really part of the Liu family. I couldn't keep imposing on you at home. Besides, my life is pretty good now, with Tracy and a job I love, but I'm not okay. These 4 words carried a suffocating tension, as if something was about to snap. I looked up. Christian's eyes were rimmed with crimson, as if tears would fall any second. "Are you not well?" I held back my tears and repeated the question. Christian, how could he not be well? When I left, he was already successful in his career, and his relationship with the female lead Sabrina was gradually heating up. "Should have won the beauty's heart long ago. I searched for you for 3 whole years, Dean. I personally chased down every false lead you spread. I kept thinking even if I had to dig 3 feet underground, I'd bring you home, to find out why you left without saying goodbye. Is it because of what happened that night that you've come to hate me so deeply? Is that why you're avoiding me, refusing to see me?" That night, was it the night I saw him and Sabrina embracing at the stairwell? "I don't hate you. I just don't know what to do anymore." "Do you dislike me?" Christian suddenly took a step forward. I instinctively stepped back, bumping into the bookshelf. In the commotion, several books fell to the ground. Christian swiftly protected my waist, pulling me aside. His body temperature hadn't yet warmed up, and the palm resting on my waist carried a chilling coldness that made me shiver. It inexplicably reminded me of that night 3 years ago. Christian when he was drunk, though they were 2 completely different sensations, both made me weak. "Christian, you're too close to me." I spoke up to remind him. Christian not only didn't let go, but instead became even more excessive. His cool fingertips gradually moved upward along the small of my back. I was furious with embarrassment. "Christian, what are you doing?" Christian didn't make any sudden moves, burying his face in the crook of my neck. He took a deep breath. "That night 3 years ago, the distance between us was even closer than this." Christian, he remembers that night. "I thought you were willing to drug me because you liked me too. That's why I ended up doing that with you while drunk." "What do you mean by also? Isn't it just me being Christian wishful thinking? Or does he actually like me too?" It wasn't until the next morning that I realized the hangover soup had nothing added to it. Actually, half a can of salt was still added. I just realized, this might have been just a joke you were playing, but I ruined it. I wanted to apologize to you, but you kept pretending like nothing happened. So I had to keep playing along with your act, but then you suddenly disappeared. At this point, Christian tightened his embrace around my arm even more, as if afraid I might run away again. Christian, I cleared my throat and began. The reason I left without saying goodbye is because on the night you claimed to have something to do, I saw you hugging Sabrina outside her house. The moment these words left my mouth, it felt like a deeply embedded thorn was being pulled from my flesh. Christian's arm around my waist stiffened. So, you think there's something between me and Sabrina? I tugged at the corner of my mouth, trying to force a casual smile, yet my eyes brimmed with tears, making me look rather ridiculous. That night, you rushed off to her without hesitation. You even held her in your arms. My voice gradually trailed off, carrying a hint of grievance I hadn't even noticed myself, and I waited for you at home until dawn, but you never came back. Christian, his arm around my waist slowly loosened but didn't withdraw. Instead, it clenched into a fist behind my back, his knuckles turning white from the force. Teresa, look at me. Shall I explain everything to you? I obediently raised my face. Christian caught my teardrops that were about to fall with his hand, his heart aching. That night, Sabrina's mother owed a huge gambling debt. The loan sharks came knocking, smashing things and threatening to take her away to settle the debt. Sabrina had no way out and could only call me for help. He spoke slowly, piecing together the fragments of that chaotic summer night for me. Whether it was Sabrina that night or not, I would go. I won't stand by and watch any living soul be dragged into hell. I took care of her debts, but her home isn't safe anymore. Debt collectors could show up at any time. So I booked her a hotel and planned to send her to a safe place to stay for a while. Christian's voice paused. She might have been too frightened, overwhelmed by emotions in the moment and rushed over. The hug didn't last long. I immediately pushed her away, but I didn't expect her to confess her feelings to me. I rejected her right away, saying her emotions might be due to the suspension bridge effect, or perhaps she mistook admiration for affection. Besides, I already have someone I like. Christian forced a pale smile, his lips twitching slightly. Sabrina is very clever. She guessed that the person I like is you, but she said one thing. Mr. Christian's sister and Mr. Christian grew up together. Does that mean she can distinguish between admiration and love, or is it that Mr. Christian is willfully ignorant, using his role as an older brother to lure her into hell despite knowing better? That moment, I suddenly couldn't face you anymore. I feel like a despicable and shameless beast. I quietly watched Christian, seeing him feel ashamed, pained, and sorrowful for me. I actually experienced a bizarre sense of satisfaction. So, what do you think now? I gazed into Christian's eyes. The emotions surging in his eyes were complex, a joy of rediscovery intertwined with bottomless obsession, weaving a misty net that enveloped me. I am indeed a beast. Even if you only see me as a brother, I still want to keep you by my side. I stood on tiptoe, just as my kiss was about to land on Christian's lips. The study door creaked open slightly, leaving a small gap. Tracy stood at the doorway dragging her bunny plushie, rubbing her sleepy eyes with tiny hands. Mommy, Uncle, what are you doing? I forced a laugh and pushed Christian away. We were doing our bedtime exercises, and we've just finished. Let's go to bed together. After returning, I ran into Sabrina once. Her strong professional skills have earned her several promotions. I was sitting on the bench when Sabrina sat down with coffee. She shared a cup with me. Here, a butter latte. I remember you can't handle anything too bitter. I took it with a smile in my eyes. Thanks. How did you know? When I was Mr. Christian's secretary, the first thing I memorized was your preferences. Sabrina looked at me with a teasing gaze. I took an awkward sip of my coffee. Actually, I asked to meet you today because I wanted to apologize. When I was younger, I didn't know any better. Whenever I was in pain, I'd irrationally think that dragging others into my misery would make me feel better, causing our esteemed Mr. Christian to endure 3 years of chasing his wife through purgatory. Seeing Sabrina's relaxed tone, it was clear she had long let go of that past resentment. I also asked curiously, do you really have no feelings left for Christian at all now? Yes, there is, Sabrina said frankly. Every day when I go to work is when I hate him the most. I and Sabrina exchanged a knowing smile. I don't like this type anymore. My dream is to find a gentle and capable husband to serve me at home. That's quite a dream, Mom. Uncle and I are here to pick you up. Tracy's voice rang out from behind. she was wearing a floral dress, running towards here at a snail's pace. Even so, it still scared Christian half to death. Sabrina heard these two terms, her gaze shifting. So you and Mr. Christian usually play these kinds of games at home. The kids are being corrupted. No matter how I tried to explain, Sabrina remained unconvinced. Forget it, I couldn't be bothered to explain anymore. I stood up and, smiling, pulled Tracy into a hug. Christian also naturally raised his arm and drew me into his embrace. I had no choice but to nudge him with my elbow. If Tracy can't break this habit of addressing you that way, you'll be stuck being an uncle for life. Christian seemed to be reminded of something by my words. He lowered his head and whispered in my ear. You haven't called me brother in a long time. Tonight in bed, could we? No, I said, quickening my pace as I walked ahead, not wanting Christian to see my burning red ears. Tracy didn't understand why, but still giggled in my arms. The so-called plot becomes extraordinary because of love. The end.